The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Bill Platt. And the way we're going to do this, I don't know if Di is going to make it in or not. So for now, it's just me and you folks. So the way we're going to do this, just to make it easy, because this is going to be set up as a question and answer session for you. Any questions you have, I'm going to be able to answer them for you. And when necessary, I'll pull up a browser window to get that job done. But if you'll post questions in the comment area, then I'll know what kind of questions people have, and I'll be able to take care of each one of those individually. So I'm glad you all made it. There's several of you here. So any questions you have, just feel free to type them in and we can go ahead and get started. So the main thing is that what I just kind of took this as this was something that came up kind of on the fly without much advanced thought. And the basic structure, I assume everybody can hear me, I take it. Just type in yes if you can hear me, and then that way I'll know for sure. Let's see. Yep, everybody can hear me just fine, so that's awesome. Hi, Tara. We got Carrie and Tara and Vicky is all talking, and BG, I assume there's a real name behind that, but I just know you by your initials, so I apologize for that. But anyway, this wasn't really planned. It was just something I came up with kind of on the spur of the moment, and it was the result of the conversation I had with Mike Nielsen last week and the poll that he did with his audience. And basically, he's having a conversation with one individual, and the guy who Mike was having that conversation with had been buying Mike's training for several years, and Mike just out of the blue asked him, well, how many books have you so far published? And Mike was shocked to hear that he'd published 0 books. So then Mike decided to put out a questionnaire to his audience, basically asking them how many books they had published themselves. And 25% had published 0 books, and 50% had published fewer than 5 books. And from our perspective, it's quite simple. It's just deciding what you want to publish and then going through the steps to make it happen. Now, it's a lot easier for people within this group because we're publishing journals as opposed to fiction. So Mike teaches fiction writing, and before I got into the journals, I was doing coloring books, and before that, I was teaching nonfiction writing. So in the grand scheme of things, go back a couple of years, and I was teaching people how to write fiction books, and writing a fiction book can be done in a day, but it's not that common. Typically, I spend 3 to 5 days putting together a nonfiction book. 3 days writing and 2 days doing editing and publishing. So it's a little bit different ball game when you're doing the nonfiction or the fiction written books. When you get over into the journals, it's a pretty straightforward process. I generally spend, once I understand the structure of the book I want to create, the journal I want to create, then it only takes me 2 hours to compile the manuscript. And then once I have the manuscript ready, I put together some book covers and go live with it. So the main thing I have to match is whatever is on the cover of the book is also on the title page of the journal. So I need to make sure those match. Now, to distinguish one from another, I can just simply do a subtitle on that book, and then that would allow me to distinguish one from another, even though the book cover is exactly the same. So let me see what questions people have so far submitted. Vicky, ask as many questions as you want to ask, because that's what we're here for today. And so she says she has a business name for low content books that she would like to use for her books. What do I think of that idea, and is it even allowed? And yes, the answer is yes, it is allowed. In fact, that's what I do with a lot of my books. I will publish like one of my quote pen names is Whitetail Publishing, which anybody who knows anything about deer, whitetail deer is the most popular type of deer. So I decided to do a Whitetail Publishing. And it's not specific to deer, but that particular pen name, the backstory I put with the pen name is it's a couple who live in Oklahoma. They went to Oklahoma State University, and Oklahoma State University, for anybody who works in farming or ranching, have probably learned about Oklahoma State University, which has one of the best veterinary programs in the United States. So my pen name, Whitetail Publishing, is a man and a woman, and they both went to college at Oklahoma State University in the veterinarian program, and he is a rancher now, and she works at a vet's office, and that's the persona I put behind the pen name. So the business name is Whitetail Publishing, and if you get the urge, you can type into any browser whitetailpublishing.com, and it will automatically take you to the pen name for that particular, or that it'll take you to the author page on Amazon where you can see the books listed under that pen name. And let's see, give me just a second here. Di just showed up, so I'm going to give her a microphone so she can help me talk here. There's Di, and we'll make her a panelist. So Di, can you hear me? We will assume she'll be up in just a second here.
Yeah, I can hear you, Bill. Awesome. You can hear me.
Awesome, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Good with it.
So I was just answering some of the original questions Vicky had asked about using a business name for low content books. And I was explaining that I'd set up Whitetail Publishing, which can be found at whitetailpublishing.com, and anybody typing in that URL will automatically be redirected to the author page for that pen name on Amazon, where they can see whatever books I've published there.
Right.
Okay, so Brenda is asking, Speaking of pen names, can you copyright your book with a pen name, or do you need to use a trademark since your pen name is fictional? And the answer to that question is you copyright it to your pen name. So it's going to be book title, copyright, pen name. But the pen name is, when it comes down to it, your pen name is tied to your Amazon account. So therefore, anything sold for that pen name will pay directly to you, and you have that connection within the Amazon account. In the event that you need to do legal action, you can just submit it. The paperwork would be submitted as Bill Platt, doing business as pen name, is suing you for infringing his copyright. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so Miriam is asking about, she'd like to separate her coloring books from her journals in Author Central, but even though she uses different names that come up under the same account. And here's the deal. When we set up our Author Central account, we need to have an individual email address for each individual pen name. So, like, Bill Platt has one email address, Whitetail Publishing has another email address. And so, if you send an email, for example, to authors@whitetailpublishing.com, it redirects to my Bill Platt email address. But that's the information that Author Central connects to my actual pen name. So anything published under Bill Platt has a Bill Platt email address, and anything published under Whitetail Publishing has its own email address. So they are two unique Author Central accounts. And then each individual...
But Bill, just a question. You can technically have 3 pen names per email Author Central account.
You know, I've heard that, and I haven't been able to duplicate that, so I don't know.
Okay, because I have.
Okay.
I have successfully I've got 3 or 4 email addresses because I've got multiple pen names. The secret is when you create the first pen name, or let's say you want to put a second pen name in, is the book has to be published first. And then when you go in and you say, okay, this is my book, you need to say, but it's not the normal pen name, it's a new pen name. And that's where the trigger comes in, is when you do that first book. So Marianne's got the problem where she's got both pen names linked to the same account now. And the problem is, I've done that in the past. The problem is that Amazon doesn't unlink them, hey?
Okay.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. I mean, I suppose the simplest solution would be to have a separate email for each Author Central account. But technically, you can have 3.
Okay, so how do you set that up when you log into your Author Central?
So you would log in, let's say, okay, I've got Legacy for Life Planners. When the other one was published under a new author name, when I went in and said, okay, looking for that specific book, and I said, this is my book, and it was still sitting under this Legacy for Life pen name account, Amazon said to me, but this is not the same author. Do you want to create a new pen name? And I said, yes.
Oh.
And it was that simple. Yeah.
That's when you're claiming the book. So when you're going through and...
That's when you're claiming the book. But you can only create a new Author Central account when you claim, in a new pen name when the first book is published.
Okay. So when you go into your original Author Central account, you go to the books and then you add more books. And then you claim the book that's under a different pen name. And when you do that, it will ask you if you want to claim a second pen name.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
And if you've got 3 pen names under the email address, then you've got to start a new one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so does that make sense, Miriam? While we're waiting for her to answer, I'm going to if there's any other questions, and there are. Okay, so Vicky is asking, do I put White until White as a first name and Tell as a middle name, and then publishing as a last name? And so here's the deal with Whitetail. I made Whitetail one word so that I wouldn't have to put it in middle name and last name. Because one of my other publishing pen names has 3 words in the name, and that became, it's more work to do it with 3 names. So when I did the Whitetail publishing, I made Whitetail one word and used it accordingly. So you can do it both ways. With my other publishing pen name that's 3 words, I use the first word as the first name, and the second word is the middle name, and the third word is, and publishing as the last name. Okay, so Miriam, when you go into your Author Central and you click on the link for books, and then it says add more books, and you type in your keyword for your additional books for the books under a different pen name, and then it shows you the list, and you go in there and you say add this book to my profile. CreateSpace will notify you immediately right then and there, because I've done it by accident, where I accidentally clicked on add this book to my profile on a particular book that wasn't mine, and it asked me, do you want to add this pen name under your account, or add this pen name to your account? And if you,
and it's not CreateSpace that's doing that, by the way. That's Amazon's Author Services, Central Services.
yes.
Yeah.
So you won't see the option to claim the different pen name until you claim the book.
And it has to be published first. That's the problem. That's what takes what's the challenging bit.
Yeah, and I think in Miriam's case, she's probably already gotten published, so it shouldn't be too hard for her. Okay, so while we're waiting for her to respond, let me go back up and see some of these other questions. So Danny is asking, do we use KDP paperback or CreateSpace or both, and the pros and cons of each? And here's the deal. I only use KDP paperback when CreateSpace is slowed to a crawl. And so I've got like 5 books published under KDP paperback, and I've got over 800 books published on CreateSpace. And I will continue to use CreateSpace more often than I use KDP paperback, because it's easier to use and it's faster to upload. But when we run into situations like we did in July and early August, when it took several days, 4 or 5 days, to get our books approved on CreateSpace, during those time periods, I would go over to KDP paperback and upload a few books, that because it might technically be faster to do it that way than the way for CreateSpace. Okay, so Vicky has another question about Author Central. She said, what is that? And is that an account on Amazon we set up in advance of publishing on CreateSpace? And is this how we get our royalties when books sell? Now, as far as our royalties, that only comes through CreateSpace or through our KDP account. So, real quick, I'm going to answer Danny. So she said, so regardless of how a book is loaded, you can put under the same pen name. And the answer is yes. You can have the same pen name under KDP Paperback and under CreateSpace. Okay? Back to Vicky's question, Author Central, it's at authorcentral.amazon.com. And let me put that URL into the window here. Let's see. And I just sent it out to everybody. So it's authorcentral.amazon.com. And that is actually separate from our Amazon or CreateSpace accounts. And the Author Central is like a add-on benefit for anybody who publishes books on Amazon. And one of the benefits of using, there are a couple benefits really. So when you have a pen name set up under Author Central, you can do a customized landing page for your author profile page. You can customize all that information there. Additionally, there are different reporting mechanisms that are available in Author Central that you don't get from anywhere else. So you can actually look at sales info, and it'll show you the current sales rank for whatever books you have listed. And you can look at the number of customer reviews available for those particular books, and you can look at the sales rank, your author rank within the Amazon ecosphere. So there's a lot of different features, a lot of different benefits that come from Amazon Central, but that's done outside of your CreateSpace account and your KDP account. So it's a unique platform that you need to create an account for, and then you add your pen name to it. And like we said, you can do up to 3 pen names per email address, and then you need to add another email address. Now, it's important to note that while I have 6 or 7 Amazon Author Central accounts, I only have one publishing account on CreateSpace and one publishing account on KDP, Amazon KDP. So Amazon does require that we only have one seller account on each of their seller platforms. So CreateSpace, there's only one email address we can use. On kdp.amazon.com, there's only one email address we can use. And on a seller account, under Amazon Merchant, there's only one email address we can use there as well. So we can only have one account on each of those 3 platforms. However, when you get into the Author Central world, you can have unlimited number of email addresses attached to all your different pen names. So they give you certain advantages of being a member of Author Central, but that is managed separately than your regular Amazon account and managed separately from your CreateSpace account. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just pop a question in for us.
Are there questions, Bill?
Yeah, there are questions. Do you see the questions?
No, I don't see the questions.
You should see the questions. I didn't. I'm not. Okay, let me get in there, and maybe I can figure out why you can't see the questions.
Probably because I'm not an organizer. You set me just up as a panelist.
Yeah, well, you're an organizer now. See if you can see the questions.
Maybe an organizer now, yeah. See?
Do you see the questions now?
Yeah, let me just check. Yes, now I'm seeing them.
Okay.
Just well, the last one, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
let's see. For newbies, can you give us an example of what we're talking about with same titles and different subtitles if you have different covers? Is the different subtitle only on the title page or on the cover too? Now, as far as the subtitles, the subtitle is not on the cover. The subtitle is only in the book profile when we're uploading the book to CreateSpace. What CreateSpace and Amazon require is that we have the book title on the cover, and I think we're required to put the author name on the cover too. Is that correct, Di?
Sorry, say that again?
Are we required to put the author name or the pen name on the book cover as well?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, good. So
It's not required.
the only thing we're required to put on the cover is the book title.
That is correct, yes.
Subtitle does not have to be on the book cover. Subtitle
No.
also does not have to be on the title page inside the book.
That is correct, yeah. Yeah.
And one thing that's advantageous to those of us who publish a lot of these things, we are not required to put the ISBN
ISBN.
number. Yeah, the ISBN
Yeah.
number does not have to be inside the book manuscript. It only has to be on the book, and Amazon will automatically apply that to the outside of our book cover.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. So when you're uploading it, you'll have the title field for the book. And let me pop something. Let me pop up a window here, and so I can show you what that expert thing looks like.
Is that the question on bleed and create space and expert?
I haven't got to that one yet.
Oh, okay.
I do sit, so. Okay, so let me change what everybody can see. Since I remember how to do that. There we go. So I want to change it to there we go. So now you should see, do you see the CreateSpace page, Di?
Yep, I do.
Okay. So the first thing we gotta do is we gotta put in the name of a project, and I'm just going to call it test because I can change it later. And then you select the paperback, and now we can use guided, but that takes a little bit longer. I use the expert all the time, so let me go ahead and get into expert here. And then, so right here, this box is our title, and this is our subtitle down here. So it's going to be title on the first line, and then subtitle on the second line. And the only thing that has to be on our book cover and inside our manuscript is the title. The subtitle is not a required part of the title page or the book cover itself. And I utilize a lot of keywords in my subtitle. So, like one set I was running yesterday, book of uploads I was doing. So, I'll just give you an example. So maybe I had red carpet diary, and then the next one I uploaded, it would be blue carpet journal. So I'm really taking advantage of keywords that people might use inside the subtitle, because when it breaks down, there's basically 4 different criteria that Amazon is looking at when they're ranking these books. There's actually 5. So the title, the subtitle, the author name, the keywords we choose, and the category that we choose for the book becomes part of the search criteria inside of Amazon. So, like, my title would be Composition Notebook, and then I might even say 6x9 Journal. 6x9 Journal. And then when I pop down here to the subtitle, I'm utilizing keywords here to make it easier for more people to find my book. And I might even, like, this time I might do diary. And then the very next time I submit a book, I'm going to use diaries. Whoops. And so I'm utilizing a range of keywords here. Now I might even do password ledger logbook. So I'm utilizing a lot of different keywords in here, and I don't have, since I'm using it in the subtitle, it doesn't have to be on the title page and doesn't have to be on the book cover, but it does allow me to target more keywords outside the keywords that they allow us down below when we do the keywords. I believe they allow us 5 keywords down here. So right here we separate them by commas, and we can do up to 5 keywords. So once I have the keywords outlined, I want to come back in, and I actually want to utilize a subtitle to squeeze even more keywords into the mix. Let's see. So what other questions? I'm sure.
Yeah, stay there, because there's a question about the expert mode in Create Space further down.
Yes.
So she's asking, something about, are you adding your extra 0.25 inches for the cut if you aren't using the bleed? So I'm assuming who is that that's asking that question?
That's
I can't
Brenda.
see.
That's Brenda.
It's who?
Brenda.
Okay, great. Brenda. Okay, so
right here. So
I'm sorry, but I lost you there, yeah?
Okay, so I got it shown on the screen right now, the bleed section.
Yeah. Perfect.
So the bleed doesn't end after the edge of the page, or does it end before the edge of the page? And I always do ends before the edge of the page, and I always do the 1/4 inch that they recommend.
Yeah, it also depends. So here's where it differs. If you've got one of, like, some of the journals that I've done that got the graphic that extend all the way to the edge of the page,
yeah,
then I use it after the edge of the bleed goes after the edge of the page. If it's a standard journal that you've put together that doesn't have any fancy graphics or page borders, then I would use the before the edge of the page. But if they do, then you have to go after. Otherwise, it cuts the pages off funny.
Okay, so I probably should be doing my covers ends after the edge of the page, but I haven't been doing it that way.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't think your journals are like heavily graphic. I'm talking about when you've got a background image.
Yeah, I use
like some of my florally stuff that I love to do.
Yeah, I always use background images, almost always.
On the interior. This is referring to the interior now, hey?
Yes, it is.
Not the cover.
It's referring to the interior, not the cover. So I was misspeaking there. I always do ends before the edge of the page. I don't put fancy graphics inside my books. Now, when I do, there's going to be one coming up that I was thinking about taking to ends after the edge of the page on that particular book. And you know the book, I'm smart ass. I posted so the running joke for me in Facebook is that I signed up to all the Bigfoot groups, and nobody else has seen Bigfoot either, and I worry that he's okay. And as a kind of a funny joke, I said that I was going to create a book that was nothing more than images in the book, and call it help me find, sort of like a Find Waldo, but find Bigfoot, and then put 50 nature shots in the book, and just generic nature shots I pulled off of Pixabay or something. And then at the end of the book, explain to them that don't blame me, blame your friends. They thought it would be funny to make you look for Bigfoot in all my pictures, and they knew Bigfoot wouldn't be there. And so that was the concept of the book. I'm probably going to publish it. I've actually changed the title of it, so it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be sold as a joke book. But in those, I might actually put the images out to the edge of the page, because it gives more searching room for the people who are looking for Bigfoot in these nature shots.
That's a good point, yes.
Yes. But, so I renamed it. I'm actually going to do it, Di.
I think you should have been talking about it long enough, eh?
Yeah. So I'm going to title it The Best Photographic Evidence of Bigfoot. And then I'm going to have that page at the end of the book telling them, don't blame me, blame your friends who bought you this book, because they knew it was a joke book. So, okay, so now that I've gone off on my little tangent there, let's get back to the questions.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions.
Okay, if anybody's got any more questions they need to ask, be sure to pop them in there. I'm just going through and making sure that we didn't overlook any questions.
How do I get started on Amazon if I'm not a vendor yet?
Well, you don't have to
So,
be
Vicky,
Go ahead.
yeah. Okay, so Vicky, are you referring to an Amazon seller or listing your books through CreateSpace like we're currently doing? I'm a bit confused by that. Can you give me an answer on that? Okay, so she's confusing being an Amazon seller and listing the books like we're currently doing.
Right.
So you don't have to have an Amazon seller's account to sell your books through CreateSpace and Amazon. You just need to open up an Amazon a CreateSpace account and a KDP account and start listing your books. When your first book goes live, that's when you'll go and open up an Author Central account. And those books that are coming through CreateSpace are not the spiral bound ones. Hey? Those are just the normal perfect bound books. Does that answer your question? Because I have a feeling Vicky's asking me about my spiral bound books.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're doing the spiral bound, you're getting them printed outside of Amazon, and then we have to have an Amazon seller's account to put them on Amazon. But the CreateSpace and the Kindle Digital Publishing are different, separate from that.
That's correct. Okay, and Nikki, sorry, Vicky, don't say sorry. This is the whole reason for this thing, is to ask the questions that you don't know, okay? Okay, anything else?
Vicky, did that make sense? Did you understand what we just laid out for you? Okay, cool. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that it's only, most of what we do is only scary until you've done it once or twice, and then it's no longer scary. And that's the point of this content, this challenge, is to get you to get past your fears. because once you get past your fears, it's like sort of like riding a bike. You just once you understand, then there's no intimidation about the process. Then you can focus on creating more and more books.
Okay, who's that, Vicky? She says that's why our Q&A and this challenge are so great. So, Vicky, I have a question for you. Are you going to put your first book up before the end of the month? I'm calling you out publicly now.
Yes, I very deliberately set this up for a 7-day window, because if we allowed you till the end of September to participate in this, then you postpone it, and then you might forget about it. You'll get busy and forget about it, and then find 100 different reasons why you can't do it, and then you'll end up getting nowhere. But if we put you under the gun and give you 7 days, you're more likely to get it done. Yeah, I'll get that taken care of today, Vicky. Di can take care of that, or I will.
Yeah, cool.
But we'll get that done today for you. Miriam, what is the best Seller Central account if you're selling your books? Now, I assume you're as far as the language, you're conflating several different programs. So there is. Let me open up some windows here for you. So one of them is kdp.amazon.com. So this is where you sell your digital books. And then CreateSpace is where we sell our physical books. And then there's the Amazon seller account, which we refer to as FBM or FBA.
FBA.
Which is fulfilled by Amazon and fulfilled by merchant. So with fulfilled by Amazon and fulfilled by merchant, that's a completely separate process than the standard bookseller platform. So with the fulfilled by merchant and fulfilled by Amazon, of course, the only differences there are fulfilled by Amazon is you're sending the inventory to them and they're selling it. And fulfilled by merchant is you're keeping the inventory in your garage and then you're selling it on Amazon. And as soon as something's sold, you have to manually ship it yourself. But that is completely different than books. The only time you would be doing a FBA or FBM seller account is if you're selling t-shirts and you're printing the t-shirt somewhere else and you're sending them to Amazon, or if you're buying a case of Cheetos and sending that to Amazon. Of course, there's restrictions on food, but you can buy a case of doorbells and send it in, or you can send in a box of nails or a case of nails or whatever the case may be. So those are going to be Amazon seller products.
So in the case of what I've done is I've sent them a box of my spiral bound books.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only reason why she had to have the Amazon seller account is because she did the spiral bound book, because Amazon will not print a spiral bound book. So she had to go to a third-party printer and have those printed off, and then she shipped it to Amazon, fulfilled by Amazon, and they've got those books in their warehouse, and when somebody buys it, Amazon ships it out. Now, if she was in the United States, she could choose fulfilled by merchant, but since she's overseas, she's doing fulfilled by Amazon. Now, my buddy who does a lot of e-com on Amazon, e-commerce, he sells a lot of physical products, and he does fulfilled by merchant. And he's actually got a warehouse that he rents, and he's got a 4-hour-a-day employee who takes care of all the product shipments for him. So he never really touches product. But for what we're doing, if you're doing the spiral bound books, you have to do the seller account. However, most of us are not doing spiral bound books. Most of us are doing the perfect bound books, which means they can go through Amazon, specifically through KDP Paperback or through CreateSpace. So we just upload the book to them, and then they put up the sales page, they collect the money, they print it off, and then they ship it out, and then they send us a check every month. Now, with the KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, that's either ebook or Kindle paperback. So the ebook version, we just upload it, and they don't even have to print it. They just have to deliver it. With the print books, they actually have to print it and then deliver it. So the difference being that 90% of the books we publish will be done through either Kindle Direct Publishing or through CreateSpace, and we don't need to handle physical inventory. The only time we would ever need the Amazon seller account, which is what they call Amazon Merchant. The only time we would have to have an Amazon Merchant account is if we're printing books outside the Amazon ecosystem. So like with the spiral bound books, or if maybe I did like there's companies out there that do like yearbooks. It's the faux leather on the it's kind of a hardback.
Like Peter's Press and all of those sort of guys.
Yeah,
the Moleskine people. Yeah.
So they're kind of expensive for people like us. If we're buying books for the high school or whatever, we're printing off 400 copies, and that's cool. But if we're selling ourselves, then it doesn't make any sense for us to buy 100 copies at a time, or even 50 copies or 20 copies at a time, unless we know we can sell those items. So we want to print them one at a time. But when you're printing off a yearbook style book one at a time, it's going to cost us $40 a printing. And that makes it uneconomical for everybody involved, if that makes any sense. I hope I provided enough information to take away the confusion without adding more confusion.
So there's a question for me from Vicky about the spiral bound books. Okay, so Bill and I actually have a product out there called Legacy Book Promotion that actually goes into the full spiral bound process. And I think, Bill, do you want to just drop a link into the chat box for that?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's the Legacy Book Promotion, and what it does is it goes through the entire process from start to finish, and how you load your books and all that sort of thing. So have a look at that, and that'll be your best bet. But Vicky, let me just give you a bit of advice. How many books have you got published to date? And you can type your answer. No one else is going to know. Okay, I'm going to kick your butt. Vicky, I want 10 books on CreateSpace from you before you even look at the spiral bounds.
Yeah.
Please, I promise you, this is the way to do it. Get your books onto CreateSpace. She's probably going to think I'm a big. She's going to think I'm a big bully.
Here's the deal: when you go with the spiral bound, you're adding steps to the process, and you're making it harder to get to publication by insisting on going with the when you're insisting going with the spiral. You should never do spiral unless you know you can sell the silly things.
Yeah.
And so, especially when we're having to print it at the printer's place and then ship it in Amazon, we're spending money before we make money. Okay?
And and it's expensive doing it through Amazon. Yeah.
Carrie says she's got 133 journals and she's still not looking at spiral bounds. And Carrie's got the right attitude about it. We should only look at spiral bounds as an additional level of book publication, another level in which we can add more inventory without a lot of extra effort. But the premise is we expand our inventory selection, but we don't want to spend the money unless we know we can make the money back quickly.
Yeah. So Bill, I know there's a lot of people that get a bit confused with me with the different platforms that I do. So I'm going to quickly run you through my process. I start with CreateSpace and I load everything that I possibly can on CreateSpace. Okay. When I start seeing books selling, then I go and load the spiral bounds on my Etsy store. Okay, because with the Etsy store, it's really easy. I don't have to have stock. If I get an order, then I'll place the order with my POD printer and ship it. Okay. That is why I've now switched also to the Amazon seller account, because through the process, I'm starting to see which books sell. And spiral bound is more popular than perfect bound. So through my Etsy store, I see what's selling. If it sells well, then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to order 20 books and I'm going to ship them off to Amazon for the FBA program. But you guys are not in that position yet. You've got to start seeing what sells first. And you do that through CreateSpace by putting lots of books up. Does that all make sense?
And to elaborate on what she just said, she's spending $100 to send spiral books to Amazon. Okay?
Yeah, plus my monthly Amazon fees, plus everything. It's an expensive exercise.
Yes, it is. So
yeah.
Let me run back to an example real quick. So, like with on the coloring books, the lady who did the I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on her name right now, but the lady
Debbie.
No, not Debbie. The woman who published The Secret Garden.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yes, but now I can't remember her name either.
So, give me a second. I'll bring up her name. Johanna Basford. That's what it is.
There we go. Thanks, Gary.
Okay. So, Johanna Basford, when she first went to print, she went through and set up her books the same way all of us set up our books. She goes through CreateSpace, sets it up. It's on the exact same book cover and book paper that you and I publish all of our books on, which is 60-pound, 60-pound books with like 80-pound covers. And that's what the standard printing style is with CreateSpace and KDP paperback. And that's how she published her first round of coloring books. And then the sales took off. And she was lucky. She's like the beginning of the wave. She was the first one to do an adult coloring book. Somebody did one back in the 90s. And they'd sold a few thousand copies, and then it just kind of faded away. And then Johanna Basford came along, and she's like, oh, I've got this, you know. And she's right. She did have it. She knew it better than anybody because she's an artist, right? So she hand drew all these illustrations for her book. She puts it on standard 60-pound paper with an 80-pound cover and published it. And then after she had been selling for a little bit, then a publisher approached her. And the publisher said, we will help you get more books out in larger volume if you sign on with us. So she went that route. But at a certain point, she told her publisher, you know, the 60-pound paper is great and everything, but my customers keep telling me that they would like thicker paper. So we're going to have to publish these books on thicker paper. And the publisher most likely kind of pushed back and said, you know, we're making money with the 60-pound paper and not that many people are unhappy with it or whatever. But she pressed on and says, no, we're going to do the 80-pound paper. I do these books, and I can do it with or without you, and you'll either do it my way or I'll terminate our relationship. I don't care. And so they went ahead and went to the 80-pound paper. But see, here's the deal. And this is the reason why I made this point. So her first book was published in 2013. She did not graduate from 60-pound paper to 80-pound paper until 2016. So 3 years passed before she upgraded her books. And in the first 3 years, she sold like 8 million copies of that coloring book before she upgraded the paper quality. Okay? So that's what we need to be doing, is we need to look at what we can do, because unfortunately, I wish it were different. But I'm a smart guy, and I've been doing this a long time, and I should know before I put something up there whether it's going to sell or not. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. Now, when I'm talking about training and stuff, I'm pretty good. My spidey senses are really good, and I can produce the right kind of training, and I can see the sales follow that. When I'm publishing journals, I'm not quite so good with it. So I sold one of my new books from this week that I posted up this week. Sold a copy first thing this morning, and here's the shocking thing about some of the journals I'm selling, and it's just mind-boggling. I put ugly book covers on them, and they sell. And so I went through, and I've got all these book covers with pretty pictures on them, like wheat fields and oceans and beaches and mountains and farms and, you name it. All those covers are out there, but the ones that sell the best are the snapshot of the blacktop parking lot and the dark blue cloth from a t-shirt are the two covers that sell the best. Why people buy that stuff, who knows? But the thing of it is, every time I think I'm smart enough to know, I find out that my customers are smarter than I am, because they're buying stuff that I didn't think they would buy.
Yeah, or stuff you don't like. There's lots of
stuff
books
I don't
that
like.
people bought. What
Like
is
the one
this? Why have you bought that?
The one that sold this morning, the one with the dark blue cloth. I think it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's hideous. The one that's a blacktop parking lot, it's absolutely hideous. It's like they went out into a parking lot at the high school and took a picture of the parking lot, and I put on the front cover of my book, and that's my best-selling book. There is something wrong with people.
Oh, geez. So BG asks a question. She says she noticed yesterday that one of my books, Amazon stated, was copyrighted and put a look inside when they usually don't do that on the Journal Planner type things for me. Is it due to sales, the number of books uploaded, or because I've not really had a look inside on journal logbooks? Now that's funny. I get a look inside on all of my books. It just takes time, doesn't it, Bill?
Yeah, it takes 5 to 7 days generally.
Yeah. It can actually take longer than 7 days, I've noticed it, but eventually all of your books will have a look inside functionality.
Yes.
And it will say copyright image.
Yes. That's right. So eventually all of them will have the look inside. Now, here's something that I haven't tested. I read about it. So this is like, I've read about it, but I haven't seen it proven. But somewhere inside of the Author Central, we're supposed to be able to upload. So I went through one of my profiles, the books I uploaded earlier this week. I went through, and you notice when I sent you the link, and you went over and looked at on Amazon my whole description was pushed together into one paragraph. Now, I was able to go into my Author Central, edit that, and put those paragraph breaks back into it.
Yes, you can.
And when you're doing that, there's an option there so you can upload a PDF that has the look inside that you want people to see.
Yeah, you can actually even get people to review a PDF version of your book.
Yes.
So if you've got, let's say, a calendar or a diary, I tried it once and I got 0 response, which was interesting. So I took a plan and I uploaded it in a PDF version, and you make it available for review. and people could look inside. So, but it's another way of getting people to actually look inside the book and let them see what you want them to see. Because unfortunately, Amazon dictates which pages they see with the look inside function.
Yeah, look inside defaults to 10% of the book.
Yeah.
So in some cases, that 10% of the book that they see isn't necessarily what you want them to see.
That's interesting. Gigi says she's never had them on her journals before. Gosh.
Yeah.
I have them on all of mine.
Yeah. But then again, I don't always go back and look at my journals a week later or 2 weeks later, so that may be the issue here.
Interesting.
Okay, so we've been here an hour. If anybody's got any other questions, we'll be happy to answer them for you. But you need to type them real quick.
Yeah, because we'll be back about we'll be back again at it's 9 o'clock my time if I'm still awake, Bill.
Yeah,
but I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not. Yeah, I'm definitely not doing the 3 o'clock in the morning one. Okay.
Yeah. And that's cool.
It's a pleasure, BG. It's really nice to be. It's fun. It's a pity we can't hear some of your voices.
Yes. Yeah, I'll definitely be here for all three of them. And then Di will be here for maybe for the next one, but definitely not for the third one.
Definitely not for the third one. Yeah, cool, man. Okay, super.
Awesome. So, Carrie, Vicky, Brenda, all of you, thank you for coming. Thank you for submitting some really, really outstanding questions. And hopefully we got you a little bit closer to, because what it comes down to is confidence. Because everything I've ever done online, you look at me, a lot of people look at me now and say, but you're so courageous, you'll do anything. Well, I will do most anything. But in the beginning, I was scared to death. It took me a lot longer than necessary to do all the things that changed my life. Yeah, Tara says she's got a few hundred journals, and she's just not seeing the types of sales she wants, and maybe she'll try different covers. And Tara, what I do, it's a matter of discoverability. So you want different keywords in the keyword area, and you want different keywords in your title and subtitle, and you want different covers on there, because what appeals to me may not appeal to you, and what appeals to you may not appeal to Di. So we really need to put out a large variety of books that will appeal to very specific people who are not just like us. So, like with I've got one of the smallest areas where I've got books put together, and I'll put this out there for y'all to digest on a little bit. But I went in and I've probably got 12 books that are designated as farming journals. So they're for farmers to make notes about when they're planting and when they're putting the pesticides down and when they're watering their crops and how much rain fell today and how much rain fell yesterday, and they can kind of keep track, and then at the end of it they can write down how much yield they got from their field and how much they spent to produce this crop. And all this is different information that a farmer might want to keep about any farming tasks that they are doing in connection to their business. And so I've got 12 books out there that are designated as farming journals, and really a couple of them are very specific and they have very specific content, but about 9 of them are straight just blank lines on a page, and the farmer can bring into it what he wants as far as what he thinks needs to belong there. And so with the farming journals, if you take it, they're not my best sellers as far as volume of books sold, but for the group, there's a higher percentage of those books that sell more than any of the other areas. So, like, I got recipe books, recipe journals. And the recipe journals, I've got like 4 or 5 of them that sold well out of 200. And then with the farming journal, I've got 12 of them, and I got about 6 of them that are selling. Okay? So when you look at the farming journal, you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And so it's just a matter of putting it together. The farming journal, so the title has nothing about farming in it. The subtitle does have something about farming in it. The keywords have something about farming in. Then I construct the description. I take a generic description that I'm putting on all my books. Then I go back and edit and customize that information for the farmer. And those books sell reasonably well. I'm not getting rich on them. But as a percentage of the whole, they're one of my best-selling areas. So that kind of makes sense, Di?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, it does. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating to me. I get excited by the strangest things, but
Well, don't say things like that on live TV, please. People are going to get very worried about you.
they should be worried.
Well, I have to run,
Okay.
so I can catch up and do the 9 o'clock session with you guys. But this was a lot of fun, and I think we should do this more often, actually.
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Guys, thanks for joining us. That was cool.
Yeah. And we'll catch everybody later, and I'm going to try to catch a recording on this, and maybe we'll post a recording later.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Cheers, eh? Thanks,
Later.
Will.
Have a nice day.
You too.